I have a Trident maple here, which I am going to follow over the seasons. The idea of this tree is it's going to be a neagari style, or the exposed root style. And the idea is this is a plant that has been sitting in a spot where a lot of water has eroded away the substrate around the roots, and therefore the roots are visible. I'm going to prune it back now. I'm going to wire a few of the branches sideways, and I'm going to let it grow for another couple of weeks, and then I'm going to take it out of this pot and do a lot of root work. Because I want the roots not just to be exposed, but also to have a very nice wide neagari. I'm just going to wire it out now. I'm going to let it recover, prune it a little bit at the same time, and then in summer, if it has recovered, I'm going to repot this. Right, that was really all that was needed to be done. Now I can just let it grow for a little bit again. It has been 3 weeks. The tree has grown exceptionally well. Let's put it in a bigger pot. And when I say a bigger pot, I mean a bigger pot. And not just any pot. No, I'm going to put the roots on this base. That way I'll create a very nice flat neagari. And even though the main roots are exposed, in the pot later on I want a very shallow pot. I realize it is early summer. Trident is growing well. It might not be the optimal time. Recommendable would be to do this in very early spring, just before the leaves burst. But I didn't have time at the time. Now I do. The weather is going to be nice for a couple of days. So I'm just going to go ahead. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this tree out of the pot. I'm going to open up all the roots that are in the pot, spread them out over this base, and then I'm going to use nails, a hammer. I'm going to put them all in place. This way you create a very, very flat neagari. Preparation is everything, so I've prepared a container, filled it with substrate, high enough for the wooden plate to just sit on and not touch the sides. Now I can continue taking the tree out of the pot. Comes right out. Now that the tree is tied down in place with 3 wires, I can start moving the roots outward along the piece of wood, just so that all the roots have their own space. And in doing this, I create the future neagari. So this is actually quite a crucial part of the work. This is where I need to start putting individual roots in their right place, and slowly I can start bringing the hammer out and start hammering the roots into their position. Note, I'm not actually hammering through the roots. I'm just putting a little nail next to the roots so it doesn't slide away. I'm just positioning it. I'm not hammering through the roots. If the root comes up, 2 nails can be used to basically put it in its position. Just like that. Can of course spend hours and hours and hours on this, taking every single little side root, but for now I'm just going to leave it at this. But you see how all the roots are pretty much in their own space, hardly any of them is crossing, they all come down quite rapidly. I might actually have to put this one in, and final root maybe this high, so it can go in a very shallow pot. Let me put this back into the container. And before I do, I'm going to clip off the roots that are very clearly now already hanging over the edge, because I want all the roots to come over the edge and I don't want these to have an unfair advantage over the rest. And then I'll fill it up with substrate and let it grow for a bit. But this is the initial setup. You see all these little nails, they all hold the root in a position to make sure they're all nicely spread out. It is quite dry here, so I'm going to plant it up. I'm not going to wait much longer. Get it all settled in. Just a quick update. It's been a week. No ill effects whatsoever. In fact, almost looks like it is sprouting again here all along this main trunk. This tree has not skipped a beat. Right, middle of July. And this thing is growing so much that it is growing out of view. Not a problem whatsoever what I did to the tree before. It just keeps on pushing, keeps on growing. This is so cool. When I started this channel, I promised myself I would be honest. I would share with you my successes, but also when something would go wrong. When I came home 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of wind. And this was almost on the ground. The plant was halfway out of its top, halfway out of the pot. It was leaning. So I had to break this out. You can actually see it was a very, very ugly. I'm really going to break it out because the wind was so strong, it was pushing. I did not want to have the plant come out of the pot completely. Now, yeah, let's see how that develops. Nothing more to say. It is now late fall. This will be a mess now below ground. Early spring. As this was blown over, I suspect that the roots are not all that pretty. Well, as suspected, I can't really find any roots anymore close to the piece of wood. So I guess the only way to get ahead shake it off, and then let's see what happens if I bring the wood up. You can't actually bring the wood up. Okay, this is going to be a difficult one. Clearly have gone nicely over the edge. So I'm just going to prune these lightly so they disconnect from the rest of the substrate, facilitating removing the rest of the plant. Well, removing the whole plant from the pot. And I'm going to do the same now on the other side, flipping it around. And see whether here also I can get the edge of the wood. And then bringing it up. Just like that. So you see all these healthy roots here, they have all grown down along the side of the pot. So this is where it broke off. Well, actually where I broke it off after it was blown over. But if you now look at this root ball, this has a very nice and flat basis. And let me just prune back all these long ends here so you can see what I mean. This is really the start of a very nice root base. This I could now redo this year again. And then I think I actually do have the basis of a very nice neagari Trident maple. Look, now that everything that hangs down has been removed. Look at how nice and flat that root ball is by itself. I do like where this is going. This is going to be a very nice special tree. In fact, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't put it in too big a container. I'll just put it in a wide one, but not too deep, and let it grow for the season again. But then in its final container and refine it from here. This sacrifice can go, and this will be the new leader. You can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buds in this very, very short distance. That is ideal for the crown of the tree. So it needs a bit of wire. But let me get this potted up. I'm not going to do any more of the Epibara work on these roots. They have formed a nice flat root base. I'm just going to pot it up. But yeah, I'm still in doubt what sort of pot to use. I could also say I'm going to let it shoot for another year. Fatten the trunk up to twice this thickness. And now, because basically the tree grew well, I'm just reusing the old substrate in the old pot. Just not adding this decaying wood. Here there's still a bit of wire and one of the nails that I hid in. But the rest, it's all partially fallen apart. I'm just taking this nice flat root ball and I'm just gently placing the roots here on top of the substrate. Teasing them a little bit towards the outside. Long bits that push the roots up, I'll just remove. And with that, I'm just going to then cover this with substrate. All these roots that are now nice and flat on the soil, they're nice and strong. They'll continue growing and developing. And then by next year when I repot, I can once again prune back to the same level. And hopefully that way create a nice flat root base for the rest of the tree. And then the wind is pushing this around. Lesson learned from last year. It's a bit of a shame, but at least it stays in the pot. Spring and the sun is straight in the lens, so I'm going to have to move the camera around. This is maybe a little bit late to repot, but I'm still going to. What I've noticed is that on this new leader, something has eaten all the leaves. I don't know what it is, but also here in the lower area there is a lot of leaves gone. So I'm a little bit concerned that the slugs from last year are back now. This is all too long. I want to remove it, but I think I'm going to leave it on for a little bit more, because here on top I've got 5 branches. I could make a little clump out of this. So I maybe want to air layer this later in the year, but everything else here is not going to be of value. So I'm going to clip these all short to the first buds. Let that grow, repot. Let's get it out of the pot. I'm thinking about using this pot to plant it in. It is quite large, but that's good because I want lots and lots of growth. I drilled a few holes here on the side because it wasn't draining. Actually, I only drilled those 3. These were there. So I'm going to cover the holes, add a little bit of substrate, of course put a few wires in, and then it's ready to go. It is broken, there's a little crack here. So yeah, I don't know how long this is going to last for me, but it will last for a year or 2. Now it is one of the first really nice pleasant days in spring that is also falling in a weekend, so everybody is out and everybody is making a lot of noise. I don't know if you can hear the planes right now, or whatever it is that my neighbors are using. Yeah, I'm going to switch off the camera because this is getting too much. You know how to put it in, right? What I am going to do is I'm going to put it in diagonally, so I can really cover all the core roots. What is that? Let's see. This is really, really nice, healthy. And now, as always, matter of getting all this old substrate out. It looks still quite nice and open, so I can reuse large parts of it probably. And this, of course, I don't need to show you, right? So I'm just going to skip ahead and show you what it looks like after removing all the substrate and maybe even the first root pruning. We look at these healthy roots. And now this beard, I just like to clip off completely, and then I'll do a fine correction of the main roots in the root ball. But this I'm definitely not going to keep. Look at that. That's gigantic. And of course, during the fine editing, I also look at stumps, old cuts that are really just not pretty and are curling back. Take those out. Heavy roots that come out, take those out, leaving the finer roots, the inner roots, all in a horizontal plane. This editing can take quite a bit of time, so be sure you have a watering can at hand or spray can, and every once in a while keep these fine roots moist, otherwise they dry out and they die. This way they can start growing straight away once it hits new substrate. Pruning is done. You can see the root ball is really thin. Keep in mind, this really is a repotting of a tree that I'm still building up. So I'm removing very heavy roots from the bottom, leaving only marginal roots to regrow. When the tree gets a little bit more mature, we allow the root ball to fatten up and keep more in place. Although from the bottom you need to always prune quite aggressively, otherwise it will never fit in the shallow pot anymore. Here I want to expose all these roots now. So I'm going to plant it also quite shallow, allowing the tree a lot of space to grow down. If we now look at the pot, this is roughly how I'm going to plant it up. And then eventually I'm just going to clip it off here and this becomes my new leader. And look at these very nice short internodes, but it needs to recover from whatever ate the little branchlets. That's so annoying. Let's not wait any longer. I'm just going to put it in a pot and show you the final result. Oh, I said one more thing, right? And also here on top I'm going to reduce it, because otherwise it catches a lot of wind and I'm a little bit concerned that it will blow over. Wouldn't be the first time. Somehow I think this happened to this tree as well. Right, just like that. Don't overcomplicate it. Now if you want to be reminded of next videos, you know what to do, right? There's a subscribe button down there. If this is going to be the new leader, it shouldn't go all this far forward, so let's aid it already in a new position. Yep. And this I will cut off somewhere over summer. Not right now. I might actually, as I said, do an air layer first, but I'll allow this to root through and through. So if you don't know how to air layer, there's a video here. Trident maple air layering. Otherwise, my latest video. And that was it. See you next time. This was Jelle, growing bonsai. That's all, folks.